welcome to the Technical Staff and Theatre Workers podcast. It's the podcast in which I talk to people who work backstage in the technical theatre industry about how they got in, their experiences, and any advice they can give to anyone getting in. This is episode 3 of season 3. A big thank you to everyone who's downloaded the show, everyone who's listening to the show. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know who's interested in theatre and those who aren't interested in theatre, because it might make them interested in theatre. Yes, thank you so much for all the downloads. It's been really good so far, so really enjoying it. And without further ado, let's get on to our next guest. I'm here with my guest at this time. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell me what your current job title is.
So I'm Scott Jeffels, and I'm the head of stage here at the Prince of Wales.
Excellent. And head of stage, what does that do as opposed to the stage manager?
So I'm employed by the building rather than the production, where the stage manager looks after running of the show itself. I look after more of the fabric of the building, what the stage is doing, all the mechanisms that are there.
Right. Okay. Excellent. How did you get into theatre?
How did I get into theatre? I started doing it as a uni job. Before that I started doing it in school, in college and stuff, to be fair, as like just helping out sort of thing. And then when I went to uni, I thought, oh yeah, that'll do. It's a nice little uni job. It's better than, supermarket work or coffee shop work. I at least do something a bit more interesting. So I was doing ins and outs. And then after that, I ended up falling into a full-time career.
Excellent. So you trained, where did you train and what did you train in?
So I didn't train in theatre. I went to Portsmouth Uni and I studied forensic computing.
Forensic compute? What's that?
So on CSI, if you see the person that does anything with the laptop and I found all the hidden files.
Right.
That.
So hacking is glorified hacking.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Wow.
I was going to do computer science, and then I saw that and thought, oh, that's a bit more interesting, a bit less than what everyone else was doing. So yeah.
Wow. And yet you found yourself in theatre.
And yeah, I found myself in theatre. It's weird. It's one of those things that it's become more useful. I guess I don't use my degree, and then I actually find myself like, oh, computer problem. And obviously these days, everything is basically a computer. It's become more and more useful.
Excellent. And of course you're from Dundee?
Dundee, yes.
Originally?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That's quite a leap, Dundee to Portsmouth.
Yeah.
But that was a fair journey down.
Yeah. My 17-year-old rebellious self thought, you know what, I want to go and
as far away as possible.
Get out somewhere else. And I thought, you know what, the sunny south coast of England was the place to go.
Was it, as opposed to the sunny east coast of Scotland?
Well, yes, yeah. So sunnier coast.
Excellent. What was your first paying job? Proper job, not just ins and outs. What was your first proper job in theatre?
My first proper job was a theatre technician, also in Portsmouth. It was outside London. It's not stage or electrics. It's just general theatre tech. Yeah. So you're kind of doing a bit of everything. Yeah.
Excellent. How long did you stay there for?
Overall, I was there for 11 years.
Wow.
But I rose up through the ranks. The time I left there, I was the technical manager.
Excellent. So give us another list of other jobs you've done.
So I was there, I was a technician, did technical manager, and then here, but I haven't actually been around that many different places.
Oh, wow,
yeah.
okay.
So it's a receiving house, so you were kind of constantly different shows,
different shows,
productions and things, yeah.
Excellent. So what would you say, so I'll change this question, normally it's what your favourite job is, but as you've not had that many, let's go with, as a receiving house at Portsmouth, what was your favourite show that you worked on that came in?
So I've had this question a couple of times, and every time
a lot of these, have you?
Well, no, but like in general, when you're talking about, what's your favourite show? Like, especially if you speak to people that aren't theatre people, and they kind of that's
yeah.
And it was the first time we did the Mamma Mia tour, and everyone goes, that's a bit of a rogue one for like. Wouldn't think that would be my interest, like musically, or the sort of show I got to watch. But it was a show I most enjoyed working on because it was. At the time, it was the biggest show that had been into that venue, and it was the first show that I was in charge of running the in and the out for, and it was the first show that I was like, oh, yeah, I had that sense of, I've done something about this,
Yeah,
I've actually achieved it, rather than just, a one-night tribute show that came in, wasn't a challenge. So that was like, yeah, I can take a step back and go, I've done that now.
A couple of things about that. Did you, because you used to have one-night tribute shows, did you used to have, like, tribute groups in? Like, like bands that take off other bands?
Yeah,
okay.
One or two.
I'll come back to that question
One or
because
two.
I've got a fun question.
Okay.
When I was touring, I never went to Portsmouth because I don't believe Portsmouth was a number one touring venue when I toured.
No, it's like
It must be quite recent, is it?
It's on the 1.5 kind of range. It can fit some of the smaller number ones,
Right,
but
okay.
it's not going to fit a Wicked or a Lion King level of tour.
I see. So for those who don't know, there are different sizes of venues, and there's a different scale of what show can fit into those venues.
Yeah.
So your bigger shows go into the number one touring venues, and your number twos, your number threes, and your provinces like Hamilton, just outside Glasgow, which is about the size of this room.
Yes.
But it still gets Joseph.
Well, of course.
So being north of the border and coming down south, have you ever encountered any issues within the industry, any problems moving up the ranks, getting jobs, anybody holding you back, anything like that?
Not with being north of the border. If anything, I kind of found that sort of, I wouldn't say it helped, but especially, having been on the receiving side of things mainly, you kind of, the amount of times you're like, I don't remember your name, but I've seen you before. You remember certain like things about people.
Yeah.
Especially like working theatre. There's so many like kind of the odds and sods people that haven't managed to make it in the office world of boring people. We're all a bit kind of crazy in our own kooky way.
Did you being in a receiving house for such a long time, did you get the same people coming through year after year? Did you find any animosity at all coming from Scotland, from English? I only say that because when I used to tour into Scottish venues, there were a couple where you get some really, because some Scottish people do not like English people.
Yes.
And you get a couple like that. So did you ever encounter it the other way around?
No, I think I was. I certainly didn't notice anything kind of particular. You noticed it more. I'd say it was more of a gender thing.
Right.
I had run-ins with that, like either people on my crew or people on the receiving or the touring crew kind of had some. Sometimes it was very innocuous, just, you're right, love, I'll take that case for you.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that. But I then got, like, a lot of my crew were like, oh, well, we just let them do that. And I'm like, well, thanks for that. But then I get, because then, the touring crew will come and be like, don't you worry about that, love, I'll take this flight case. And then they'll go and look at me and go, right, well, you can help. And I'm like, she's perfectly capable of lifting by herself.
Excellent.
But, yeah.
What would you say is a common misconception of anybody who's who's trying to get into the industry? So somebody who thinks the industry is a certain way, but it isn't that way.
I think the common misconception is that it's all the glamour side of it. So
Right.
you're like, what stars did you meet? Or like if you're working on a certain production that's got a big name in it, like what's he like in real life? I bet you can. And I'm like, not in a bad way. I've not had a bad experience with people, but usually if you're a big star, you can come in, you can go straight to your dressing room, and most of the crew and people aren't actually going to have a huge amount of interaction with that person.
Yeah.
So they're like, what's he like? And I'm like, well, it's not nearly as glamorous an industry as people kind of mentally, I think, assume. Like, you must meet so many cool people, and bet you're schmoozing with Cameron all the time. I'm like, no.
Also, I think the show. When you work on a show, people who don't understand it will go, it must be so amazing to do this every night, and it must be, it's so magical, and yada, yada, yada. And it is great, and it's a great job, but it's also a job. So, and all jobs can get monotonous after a while.
I mean, are we allowed to swear?
Of course you
are. So the whole thing, and I've seen so many people wearing it, but like the whole I fucked up bigger gigs than this. And
right,
some people get into this like, guys, this is amazing, and I've worked with like Amdram groups and dance schools and that sort of stuff before. And for some people, it's like the culmination of their entire year's worth of work.
Yeah.
And then. It's the culmination of their entire year's worth of work, and it's everything, and it's just another gig.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to poo-poo on anyone's work and achievements and stuff, but I'm here to do a job, and this is just me doing my job.
It's a little bit like this is a really bizarre analogy, but it's a little bit like when you move in house, right? When you move house, you have your solicitors, and to you, that one thing for your solicitors to do, to sort out your moving house, is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
But to them, it's just another little thing that they've got to do.
That they are doing all the time, 365 days a year. But,
And it's the same thing,
Yeah.
So I can see that. What would you say the pros and cons of the industry?
The pros, I think the well, I'd say it's a pro and a con would be the working hours. For some people, if you're not a morning person, this is a great industry to be in. But also, if you are a morning person, this is probably not the best thing. And like having a social life is very limited to people that are on the same kind of circadian rhythm as you. Because if you're trying to interact with someone in the real world, you're never gonna have a diary that lines up. Pro would probably be, I mean, if you enjoy theatre, then you get to see you're working in the industry, you are making the magic happen, which does sound horrifically cheesy, but,
it's true.
You get a bit of pride of it, and you can, I worked on that show, and I know that person and things. But the con of it is it can kind of ruin things a bit for you, because...
It certainly ruins the magic.
I can't now go to any show, even if it's not one I've seen or worked on before. I can't go to any show and switch off. I'm always being like, how does that work? Oh, yeah, it's spade there. Oh, bit of masking.
I find also you sit and watch a show and you go, that fly cue didn't go at the right time.
Yeah,
that lighting's a bit wrong.
It's that you don't have the ignorance of bliss with it, with anything anymore, and you just can't switch off.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. What advice would you give to anybody who's trying to get in?
I think... Certainly when I was, because obviously I didn't train for this, and I see a lot of people that either come through at colleges or are trying to get into the industry or whatever, and they kind of get into this thing that you need to have done a degree, or you need to have done something, a professional qualification in it, and so much of life, not just theatre industry, but just in general, is like, oh, well, if you want to be a doctor, you can possibly do it without a degree, and that is true with certain, please do not be a doctor.
Be a doctor.
please don't. But, this isn't one of those industries, and whilst, yes, absolutely, there's some skill that you do need to have to be able to get into things. There is a lot of, you can muck in, you can learn on the job. You will gain a lot of experience, and there's so much in this, in this industry in general, that you can't learn in a classroom or in some sort of course. You just need to learn through experience.
Yeah.
So, being open to, actually, I'm at the bottom of the rung, but I can climb myself up here, and I can work the hard way. And you can. And
actually, you can do it relatively quickly if you listen and you get your head down and you do the job, and you don't be afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah. Like I say, I've had some college students or uni students, and they come in thinking that they are the bee's knees, or maybe they've got their first professional tour after finishing, and they're like, "Oh, I know everything," and I'm like, "I guarantee you don't." And now I'm more determined to prove to you that you don't.
Yeah.
Whereas if people kind of come in being like, "You know what? I've just finished my degree, but actually I'm still pretty green," we're like, "Yeah, cool. There's plenty of stuff I can teach you." And I'm still learning new stuff every day, and I think anyone that says that they're not is lying.
No, absolutely.
Or terrible.
And people who've been in the industry a long time are willing to teach. They're willing to help people along. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah. I think especially after COVID, obviously there was normally you get that kind of nice spread out.
COVID.
Well, of course we don't mention that, but there was that people kind of retire and new people come in, and it's all spread out, and it's people take over at a standard rate. Of course, that then meant everyone was synced up, and so much skill was lost all at the same time.
Yeah.
That then there was this kind of mad scramble to backfill, and then it became quite apparent to the few people that were around in a position to be able to teach that, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff that we need to be showing people, and people need to be learning through experience, because you're getting people that are coming out with degrees, and they've done, no fault of theirs, but they've been Zoom learning theatre.
Well, that was the other thing.
There
was no practical, was there?
Yeah.
So it was all.
So all of a sudden, it's wow, we need to teach stuff. But yeah.
Excellent. That's the last of the questions. I've just got one more going back to the tribute act. What was the best tribute act name that you can remember?
Oh, tribute act name.
I once did a show with a band called Chimp Bizkit, which were a Limp Bizkit tribute group.
It's good.
And we had Guns and Oatcakes as well, which was obviously Guns N' Roses.
I mean, I didn't have any interesting ones. They were all like, I've heard every single possible name of an ABBA tribute.
ABBA, yeah.
And they're just like, they're so boring and unimaginative. I'd like Pink Floyd wall, another brick, a third brick, many bricks in a wall. I think it was the weirdest one. I wouldn't say any of them were good. I think they were just kind of, you go through the list, no, taken, no, taken, no, taken. Oh, that'll do.
I like Cooper as well. That was a good one. Alice Cooper.
I did once have a lady genuinely complain when we did a Carpenter's tribute. It was the Carpenter's story. And an audience member complained to front of house because that's not Karen Carpenter.
Nice.
And they had to have the, sit down, real
Karen
world
Carr.
talk. The Tooth Fairy isn't real, Santa Claus isn't real, and by the way, Karen's been dead for many years.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, that was an experience, and she went away still not believing it. No, don't believe you. That's an imposter. And I'm like,
It's probably
okay.
yeah. Well, Karen Carpenter's with Elvis, aren't they, in the Loch Ness Monster? So.
Yes.
Right. Anyway, thank you for joining me.
That's all.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you to Scott for that. I enjoyed that one. Interesting to hear a point of view of somebody who's worked in rep theatre, who's been in a receiving house. Thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you so much for downloading it. It's been really great, really loving it so far, and long may it continue. Thank you to all the guests that have been on, and I shall see you all next week.